Welcome back to First Take. Eagles star right tackle Lane Johnson revealed this week that this season will likely be his last in the NFL. A 6-time Pro Bowler and 2-time first-team All-Pro, Johnson has been a key piece of Philadelphia's success, helping the organization capture 2 Super Bowl titles. After missing the final 8 games of last season, including the playoffs with a foot injury, here's Lane on one final run.
I thought about it last year, really. I mean, lots of conversations with my family, my kids. You know, my oldest is turning 13 here in a few days. So, you know, it's hard to get time back, especially those years, you know, I feel like are very pivotal. So, you know, it'll be, I think, a fun transition. But as far as my focus here, man, it's with the Eagles, it's playing. I still feel I can be a premier tackle in this league. You know, my movement, everything feels good. I just need to stay healthy and keep stacking days. You know, I am 36, so it is weird to say, but, you know, all the support, all the love here. And, yeah, man, I plan on having a really good last year.
So that's pretty significant news, Mike T, that Lane Johnson, who's been a stalwart for them up front, thinking of retirement in the not-too-distant future. As you look at the Eagles as a whole, though, a team that's trying to bounce back from a playoff loss last year and try to get back to the Super Bowl, which offensive player needs to have the biggest year in order for Philly to do that?
Saquon Barkley, because he can make all the other noise go away all by himself. And Lane Johnson is a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Obviously, much closer to the end than the beginning. We talked about Laramie Tunsil. I mean, there are some great tackles in this sport. He may be up there with the best of the best. Reason I say Saquon, Courtney, is the following. There's so many question marks. No A.J. Brown. What's Mekhi Lemon going to do? Jeff Stoutland's gone. Chris Cooper, new offensive line coach, who I think is going to do a great job. Sean Mannion's never called to play before. If Saquon Barkley is anywhere close to what he was, not last season, but the season before, 2,283 scrimmage yards, 15 touchdowns, that tamps down all the noise. All of a sudden, Lane Johnson can miss a couple games. Landon Dickerson, left guard, maybe his durability is a question. Play calling may not be the same from day one, but if Saquon Barkley could play close to that level, all those other problems get minimized and quieted down. So he, all by himself, on his broad shoulders, can carry this offense through a lot of question marks.
It's Jalen Hurts. It's always Jalen Hurts. It's
the
always
quarterback.
the quarterback. When the question is who's the offensive player that has the most at stake or that has the most influence or whatever the question may be, it's always the quarterback, Mike. You cannot run your way into being an elite team.
Oh, really?
Narrative,
What about the 2,200 yards and 50?
That Jalen Hurts and his actions helped all of that. The offensive line helped all of that. Saquon Barkley's talent, Saquon Barkley's better at his job than Jalen Hurts is at his, okay? But when you're saying who has the most influence over what happens with the Eagles this year, it's always going to be the quarterback.
But, Kevin, what about the inverse of that? Don't you think Saquon Barkley's ability and the opposing game planning allows Jalen Hurts to be better at his job?
Yes, but also Jalen Hurts was, first of all, the offensive line last year was not as good as it was 2 years ago. And Saquon Barkley was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage more than he ever has in Philadelphia. That's part of the story here. But with Jalen Hurts, the narrative that he was a passenger for his entire Eagles career drives me nuts. It diminishes the fact that he is one of the best downfield passers in football during his entire tenure there, okay? It diminishes the fact that he has a ring and had one of the best Super Bowl performances in the history of that game, okay? The idea that Super Bowl rings end arguments seems to apply to everybody but Jalen Hurts. The Twitter trolls, okay, seem to see the ring as an inconvenience rather than an argument settler, okay? And we're still doing this years into his tenure. He should be the franchise quarterback. He should be treated as such. Every other quarterback on the level with Jalen Hurts, it's Josh Allen has to do this. He has to put a team on his back. Mahomes has to put the team on his back. Joe Burrow has a team on his back. And with Jalen Hurts, the argument is, oh, well, no, everything else has to go perfect for him. He has to have the receiver. He has to have the running back. He has to have the offensive line. Jalen Hurts should be considered the type of quarterback who rises above his circumstances. He can do that, and if he gets back to being Jalen Hurts, everything else flows from there.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment from Kevin. I think they are Batman and Robin. I just think Jalen Hurts is Robin. Superhuman Saquon is when the Eagles won a Super Bowl. And I think your best Jalen Hurts is the Jalen Hurts who is poised and is not forcing things. And having Saquon Barkley being the threat that he can be, I think that gives Jalen Hurts more confidence. He makes the smarter reads, the better plays. He has more time to think about what he's going to do. And I think that's where Saquon Barkley comes in. He had a good season, not a great season for someone like him. But when he was rushing for 2,000 yards, you saw how the confidence changed for Jalen Hurts. He knew, not only am I good, but I've got the best skill player maybe in the entire NFL next to me. If he gets back to that, that'll change Jalen Hurts, which is why Saquon Barkley is the key piece for this Eagles offense.
Surprise, Courtney. I went to Eagles practice last week.
I bet you talked to Jalen Hurts, too.
I did not talk to Jalen Hurts. I did not talk to Jalen Hurts, but I talked to a lot of people there. And watching practice, which we're lucky enough to get to do, I did not take any video. Take that, Christian Parker. Did not take any video of Eagles practice. But one of the things I noticed was it was a lot of middle of the field work, and it was a lot of misdirection, a lot of putting the linebackers in conflict, making them use their eyes a lot. And I felt when watching that, it's just simple stuff that's been missing. Mekhi Lemon being in motion. It's just, again, not giving up any secrets, Christian Parker, but it was just, you're looking at it and you're seeing so many simple things that could have been done to help Jalen Hurts were just not happening under Kevin Patullo. Now, I think the offensive coordinator is always an easy scapegoat, but I feel like this offense, Jalen Hurts using his legs more efficiently, maybe not more, but more efficiently, more effectively, is going to help. Middle of the field stuff is going to help, and just the misdirection. Putting linebackers in uncomfortable positions and then the defensive backs flowing from there. I think this offense is really going to be good for him.
Yeah, the big question to me, guys, is going to be who's going across the middle, because when you think about the receiver room being a basketball team, A.J. Brown just went up the road. Yeah. He's your power forward, your center. Mekhi Lemon, we saw that on tape at USC, but he's a rookie. Is it Dallas Goedert? Is it Eli Stowers, their draft choice? So I still think there's other very fundamental questions. I think they can be answered, but you talk about going across the middle. That's one of my bigger questions is you're losing one of the most physical players in the game in A.J. Brown. That's not replaced easily.
I think Lemon and Stowers can both do it early, really early. We've seen this before. The Eagles rely on young players a lot because they can. You know, when I was there that day, Saquon Barkley, Mike's favorite player in the league apparently, said if he had enough money to buy a team, which if he keeps running like he does, maybe he will, if he had enough money to buy a team, he would run it like the Eagles do. And what he meant by that was just the way that they're able to manage that roster, the way that they're able to maximize the value from the roster, and making young players a huge part of the team is a massive part of that.
Yeah, Ken, so let's be clear. I do like players that have like 2,200 yards. There's no question about it. Yes, I do.
He didn't have much of a drop-off last year. I know everybody wants to say that Saquon Barkley fell off from the season, 345 carries, 2,005 yards, Myron, but 1,140 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. It's lower, but it wasn't bad, and I do get what you're saying about taking pressure off this passing game that's going to develop under a first-time play caller in Sean Mannion and try to get back on track here.
Well, and I also think if you're facing the Eagles, what's your concern? It's, do you have the durability to stand up to that rushing attack in the fourth quarter? They're the kind of team that takes you 12 rounds in the fight, and you got to be ready late in the game. And I think when you're trying to deal with Saquon Barkley, play after play after play, it wears defenses down. So I think that's another element of this. The Eagles are fresh late in games when other teams are exhausted and fatigued. That's why I think Saquon is so important to their success.
Yeah, and they have to worry about Saquon. They have to game plan for the tush push too, because we heard from Sean Mannion that is here to stay in this Eagles playbook. Straight ahead here on First Take, there are 10 new head coaches in the NFL this season. Is Josh Allen